trapped. Something political. Whoa. That is really insightful. Wow. But if you follow me within this wall, with Christian arms hemmed in on every side, without in battle fight or stroke at all, even at blank, I will safely guide. Where you delight, rejoice, and glory shall, in perils great, to see your prowess tried. Sounds terrible. Can you even hear my voice? That got rid of it. Is it the mode? How about now? Seems to have gotten rid of most of it. In this mode? Picking up noise everywhere. Just broke. Even at blank, I will use safely guide danger. Do you concentrate in me? For I am blank to tell you your courageous clear voice to prove you illustrious. Reluctant. Moffat. Arphaxad. Entered. House. Straight. Why, hello there. Theological. This has to be bread bourbon. Are you feeling any happier? Sorrows. What is Phaedra about? Hmm. This should be good. Fake Dr. Johnson. Phaedra and Hippolytus. Smith. Oh, here's the epilogue. Oh, this is... Mr. Edmund Smith. Tragedy. Mr. Smith dreamt of the immortality of his work. The best Latin poem since the Aeneid was consecrated to Lord Halifax. Wonder what he's talking about. That's how Johnson and others would sign their letters. Your lordship's most humble and most obedient servant. Long has a race of heroes filled the stage, that rant by note and through the gamut rage. In songs and airs express their martial fire, combat in trills, and in a fugue expire. While, lulled by sound and undisturbed by wit, calm and serene, you indolently fit. And from the dull fatigue of thinking free, hear the facetious fiddle's repartee. Our homespun authors must forsake the field, and Shakespeare to the soft scarlatti yield. This is a dedicatory poem. To your new taste, the poet of this day was by a friend advised to form his play. Had Valentini, musically coy, shunned Phaedra's arms, and scorned the proffered joy. It had not moved your wonder to have seen an eunuch fly from an enamored queen. I think that's the plot. How would it please should she in English speak, and could Hippolytus reply in Greek? But he, a stranger to your modish way, by your old rules must stand or fall today. And hope you will your foreign taste command to bear for once with what you understand. Second epilogue. Ladies, tonight your pity I implore for one who never troubled you before. I think this might have been read at the beginning of the play. An Oxford man, extremely read in Greek, who from Euripides makes Phaedra speak, and comes to town to let us moderns know how women loved 2,000 years ago. If that be all, said I, even burn your play. Egad, we know all that as well as they. Show us the youthful handsome charioteer, firm in his feet and running his career. Our souls would kindle with as generous flames as e'er inspired the ancient Grecian dames. Every Ismena would rain her breast, and every dear Hippolytus be blessed. But as it is, 6 flouncing Flanders mares are even as good as any 2 of theirs. And if Hippolytus can but contrive to buy the gilded chariot John can drive, now of the bustle you have seen today and Phaedra's morals in this scholar's play, something at last in justice should be said, but this Hippolytus to fills one's head. Well, Phaedra lived as chastely as she could, for she was Father Jove's own flesh and blood. Her awkward love indeed was oddly fated. She and her Polly were too near related. Incest theme. And yet that scruple had been laid aside if honest Theseus had but fairly died. But when he came, what needed he to know but that all matters stood in statu quo? There was no harm, you see, or grant there were, she might want conduct, but he wanted care. 'Twas in a husband little less than rude upon his wife's retirement to intrude. He should have sent a night or 2 before that he would come exact at such an hour. Then he had turned all tragedy to jest, found everything contribute to his rest. The picket friend dismissed, the coast all clear, the spouse alone, impatient for her dear. But if these gay reflections come too late to keep the guilty Phaedra from her fate, if your more serious judgment must condemn the dire effects of her unhappy flame, yet ye chaste matrons and ye tender fair, yet love and innocence engage your care. My spotless flames to your protection take, and spare poor Phaedra for Ismena's sake. Yeah, indeed. Look, these are the actors on the right. Phaedra played by Mrs. Barry. "'Tis strange, Cratander, that the royal Phaedra should still continue resolute in grief and obstinately wretched. That one so gay, so beautiful and young, of godlike virtue and imperial power, should fly inviting joys and court destruction. Is there not cause, when lately joined in marriage, to have the king her husband called to war? Then for 3 tedious moons to mourn his absence, nor know his fate. The king may cause her sorrow, but not by absence. Oft I've seen him hang with greedy eyes and languish o'er her beauties. She from his wide, deceived, desiring arms flew tasteless, loathing, whilst dejected Theseus with mournful loving eyes pursued her flight and dropped a silent tear." So Phaedra's not getting it as she likes from Theseus. Ha! This is hatred, this is aversion, horror, detestation. And the quote below, perhaps that's about her not listening. The 21st volume. I see no prefaces. It's a Latin poem. An ode. O qui resisse finibus indicis benignus herbe das mihi divitem haurire sucem et sauveolentes sepe tubis itare sumos. O thou from India's fruitful toil that dost that sovereign herbs prepare, tobacco, in whose rich fumes I lose the toil of life and every anxious care, while from the fragrant lighted bowl I suck new life into my soul. I'm telling you, I think tobacco back in the 18th century was basically as powerful as marijuana. I mean, listen to this description. Thou, only thou art kind to view the parching flames that I sustain, with which cool draughts thy casks subdue, and wash away the thirsty pain with wines, whose strength and taste we prize, from Latian suns and nearer skies. Oh, I say, to bless thy pious love, what vows, what offerings shall I bring, since I can spare, and thou approve no other gift? Oh, hear me sing. In numbers Phoebus does aspire, who strings for thee the charming lyre. Here's the Britain love. Thus while you the British arms, triumphs, and distant same pursue, this is 1706, the yielding fair reigns her charms and gives you leave to conquer too. Her snowy neck, her breast, her eyes, and all the nymphs become your prize. Oh, look at that. Oh. The heyday of English poetry. Yeah, that's better. Even if it's not perfect, at least I don't have to have this stupid thing in my lap. I am feeling the welling joy of excuse me. The welling joy of my first quaff of coffee coming. Question is, do I make my own and save a few dollars, or do I go down the street and get the most excellent intelligentsia coffee? It is a beautiful day, so perhaps I should do the latter. There is so much poetry. Unbelievable. I'm just gonna get a here in the day they had the table of contents in the back, as they do in Europe today. Latin. These are the translations. Mr. Pomfret. Oh. I think this may be a Johnsonian preface. Let's see. This is definitely Johnson. Yeah, this is beautiful Johnsonian prose. What was snuff? So like you had snuff, and a tobacco that was decadent. If heaven the grateful liberty would give that I might choose my method how to live, and all those hours propitious fate should lend in blissful ease and satisfaction spend. Near some fair town I'd have a private feat, built uniform, not little nor too great. Better if on a rising ground it stood, on this side fields, on that a neighboring wood. It should within no other things contain, but what are useful, necessary, plain. Methinks 'tis nauseous, and I'd ne'er endure the needless pomp of gaudy furniture, a little garden grateful to the eye, and a cool rivulet run murmuring by. On whole delicious banks a stately row of shady limes or sycamores should grow, at the end of which a silent study placed should be with all the noblest authors graced, Horace and Virgil, in whose mighty lines immortal wit and solid learning shines, sharp Juvenal and amorous Ovid too, who all the turns of love's soft passion knew. He that with judgment reads his charming lines, in whose strong art with stronger nature joins, must grant his fancy does the best excel, his thoughts so tender and expressed so well, with all those moderns, men of steady sense, esteemed for learning and for eloquence. In some of these, as fancy should advise, I'd always take my morning exercise. For sure no minutes bring us more content than those in pleasing, useful studies spent. I'd have a clear and competent estate that I might live genteelly, but not great. As much as I could moderately spend, a little more sometimes to oblige a friend. Nor should the sons of poverty repine too much at fortune, should they taste of mine. And all the objects of true pity should be relieved with what my wants could spare. For that our Maker has too largely given should be returned in gratitude to heaven. A frugal plenty should my table spread with wealthy, not luxurious dishes spread, enough to satisfy and something more, to feed the stranger and the neighboring poor. Strong meat indulges vice, and pampering food creates diseases and inflames the blood. But what's sufficient to make nature strong, and the bright lamp of life continue long? I'd freely take, and as I did possess, the bounteous author of my plenty bless. I'd have a little vault, but always stored with the best wines each vintage could afford. Wine whets the wit, improves its native force, and gives a pleasant flavor to discourse. By making all our spirits debonair, throws off the lees, the sediment of care. But as the greatest blessing heaven lends may be debauched and serve ignoble ends, so but too oft the grape's refreshing juice does many mischievous effects produce. My house should no such rude disorders know, as from high drinking consequently flow. Nor would I use what so kindly given to the dishonor of indulgent heaven. If any neighbor came, he should be free, used with respect and not uneasy be. In my retreat, or to himself or me. What freedom, prudence, and right reason gave, all men may with impunity receive, but the least swerving from their rules too much, for what's forbidden us, 'tis death to touch. That life may be more comfortable yet, and all my joys refined, sincere, and great, I'd choose 2 friends whose company would be a great advance to my felicity. Well born of humors suited to my own, discreet, and men as well as books have known. Brave, generous, witty, and exactly free from loose behavior or formality. Airy and prudent, merry but not light, quick in discerning and in judging right. Secret they should be, faithful to their trust, in reasoning cool, strong, temperate, and just. Obliging, open, without huffing, brave, brisk in gay talking, and in sober, grave. Close in dispute, but not tenacious, tried by solid reason, and let that decide. Not prone to lust, revenge, or envious hate, nor busy meddlers with intrigues of state. Strangers to slander, and sworn foes to spite. Not quarrelsome, but stout enough to fight. Loyal and pious friends to Caesar, true as dying martyrs to their Maker too. In their society I could not miss a permanent, sincere, substantial bliss. Would bounteous heaven once more indulge, I'd, for who would so much satisfaction love, choose as witty nymphs in conversation. Would bounteous heaven once more indulge, I'd choose, for who would so much satisfaction lose, as witty nymphs in conversation give, near some obliging, modest fair to live. For there's that sweetness in a female mind which in a man's we cannot hope to find, that by a secret but a powerful art winds up the spring of life, and does impart fresh vital heat to the transported heart. I'd have her reason all her passion sway, easy in company and private gay, coy to a fop, to the deserving free, still constant to herself and just to me. Still a soul she should have for great actions fit, prudence and wisdom to direct her wit, courage to look bold danger in the face, no fear, but only to be proud or base. Quick to advise, by an emergence pressed, to give good counsel or to take the best. I'd have the expression of her thoughts be such, she might not seem reserved, nor talk too much. That shows a want of judgment and of sense, more than enough is but impertinence. Her conduct regular, her mirth refined, civil to strangers, to her neighbors kind, averse to vanity, revenge, and pride, in all the methods of deceit untried. So faithful to her friend, and good to all, no censure might upon her actions fall. Then would even envy be compelled to say, she goes the least of womankind astray. To this fair creature I'd sometimes retire, her conversation would new joys inspire, give life an edge so keen, no surly care would venture to assault my soul, or dare. near my retreat to hide one secret snare. But so divine, so noble a repast I'd seldom and with moderation taste. For highest cordials all their virtue lose by a too frequent and too bold a use. And what would cheer the spirits in distress ruins our health when taken to excess. I'd be concerned in no litigious jar, beloved by all, not vainly popular. Whatever assistance I had power to bring, to oblige my country or to serve my king, whene'er they call I'd readily afford my tongue, my pen, my counsel, or my sword. Lawsuits I'd shun with as much studious care as would dens where hungry lions are, and rather put up injuries than be a plague to him who'd be a plague to me. I value quiet at a price too great to give for my revenge so dear a rate. But what do we by all our bustle gain but counterfeit delight for real pain? If heaven a date of many years would give, thus I'd in pleasure, ease, and plenty live. And as I near approached the verge of life, some kind relation, for I'd have no wife, should take upon him all my worldly care, whilst I did for a better state prepare. Then I'd not be with any troubled vexed, nor have the evening of my days perplexed, but by a silent and a peaceful death, without a sigh, resign my aged breath. And when committed to the dust, I'd have few tears, but friendly, dropped into my grave. Then would my exit so propitious be, all men would wish to live and die like me. This is really beautiful. Pomfret. Never even heard of this person. Exactly why I must dig noble Pomfret out of his grave. My God. $68 volumes. My God, dude. That is not even available. We have 68 volumes. Hello, my friend. I am downloading quite slowly this 58 volume collection of Samuel Johnson's works of the English poets. How are you doing? Did you do your stream on Confucius? Cool. Yeah. Yeah, I actually just read this wonderful poem by this poet I had never heard of named, can't even remember his name now. But it was called The Choice, and he speaks of an easy life of leisure with a nice house, two witty friends, a a female that he's not married to that he can banter with, but then sitting in quiet and retirement with his books, and that was the ideal life. Let me actually show you. I highly recommend the poem. Yeah, John Pomfret. Yeah, I haven't gotten to the point where um uh where I schedule anything, nor do I know that I ever will, even if it does augment my fame. I'm with Pomfret, I believe, where two good friends are better than thousands of screaming spectators. Why isn't that working? Well, yeah. Yeah. I mean, fame is great. Uh, and I'm actually quite interested in my little method here, I was just thinking about like, what if I did have, say, 100 people playing the the game at the same time? I actually think it would be an opportunity for public enlightenment. After watching um, some of these streams on here, it is astonishing how superficial they are. Like it's just like an entire new dimension of superficiality. Um, that should work. Um, and even if you had that following, like people don't have much constructive to fill it with. Such anarchy. The idea of doing things because you enjoy them is something she can hardly understand. Oh, yeah. Now, who would have said that? She, Jane Austen. Oh, look at that. George Orwell. That's the first time any of my Orwell uh, books have come up. I put in several Orwell books. The doors were locked, and a bedstead was set against the door, and 2 men slept in it to blank our getting out in the night. Prevent. Oh, two in a row. Two in a row. I have no idea. Kipling. Interesting book. Okay, going for 3 in a row. I'm gonna make it a decent one. Yeah, right? Well, it's Kafka was in the modern day slavery of the office. Who hast made me look face to face on my child's murder and polluted a father's blank with death? That's not a complete sentence, so I'm gonna. Ooh, and that one would have been a hard one. I want my 3 in a row. I'm gonna make it worthwhile. Okay, here we go. That's the way we'll be happiest. And if our lives have moments that sting, at least we'll weep together and be. Ooh, I want to say happy, but I think it's wrong. Oh, I'm going to say together. Together. You'll have to be more voluble here, my friend. Blessed. Blessed. It is imperative that this trend be blank by a much more rapid and concerted buildup of the actual strength of both the United States and the other nations of the world. Arrested. They are random sentences from a giant treasure trove of literature and philosophy. If you look in the announcements below, I listed the books that were in there a couple days ago. There are about 150 more in there. This is a declassified National Security Council document written by George Kennan from about 1950. Essentially, this is the document that declared the Cold War. Let me get some poetry in here. How long wilt thou, fair blank, esteem me and my presence less? I will say, friend. And I'll say that's from the Aeneid. Shepherdess. Yeah, the last time I went up to a shepherdess, I asked her the same question. Andrew Marvel. Let's search that one out. That one was kind of quirky. That is an excellent question, my friend. Let us see. What? Oh. A lot of shepherds in here. Oh, I think that might have been it. Okay, here we go. So this is interesting. So this is from the poem Damon the Mower. I'm pretty sure this is yeah. Okay. Hark, how the mower Damon sung. Oh wait, hold on, let me make your comments visible. New Zealand? Maybe. More likely Britain, but I'm unfortunately quite biased to Britain, which I do not consider a virtue. rather a weakness. Hark! The mower Damon sung, with love of Juliana stung, while everything did seem to paint the scene more fit for his complaint. Like her fair eyes, the day was fair, but scorching like his amorous care. Sharp like his scythe his sorrow was, and withered like his hopes the grass. That's a beautiful, beautiful line right there. Oh, what unusual heats are here, which thus our sunburned meadows fear. The grasshopper its pipe gives o'er, the hamstringed frogs can dance no more, but in the brook the geween frog wades. No, the green. But in the brook the green frog wades, and grasshoppers seek out the shades. Only the snake that kept within now glitters in its second skin. This heat the sun could never raise, nor dog star so inflame the days. It is from an higher beauty groweth, which burns the fields and mower boweth, which made the dog and made the sun hotter than his own phaeton. Not July causeth these extremes, but Juliana's scorching beams. Tell me where I may pass the fires of the hot day or hot desires. To what cool cave shall I descend, or to what gentle fountain bend? Alas, I look for ease in vain when remedies themselves complain. No moisture but my tears do rest, nor cold but in her icy breast. Here's the line. How long wilt thou, fair shepherdess, esteem me and my presence less? To thee the harmless snake I bring, disarmed of its teeth and sting. To thee chameleons changing hue, and oak leaves tipped with honey-dew. Yet thou, ungrateful, hast not sought nor what they are, nor who them brought. I am the mower Damon, known through all the wet meadows I have mown. On me the morn her dew distills before her darling daffodils. And if at noon my toil me heat, the sun himself licks off my sweat. While going home the evening sweet in cowslip waters bats my feet. What though the piping shepherd stalk the plains with unnumbered flock? This scythe of mine discovers wide more ground than all his sheep do hide. With this the golden fleece I shear of all those closes every year, and though in wool more poor than they, yet I am richer far in hay. Nor am I so deformed to sight, if in my scythe I looked right, in which I see my picture done, as in a crescent moon the sun. The deathless fairies take me off to lead me in their dances soft, and when I tune myself to sing, about me they contract their ring. How happy might I still have mowed, had not love here his thistle sowed. But now I all the day complain, joining my labor to my pain, and with my scythe cut down the grass. Yet still my grief is where it was, but when the iron blunter grows, sighing I whet my scythe and woes. While thus he drew his elbow round, depopulating all the ground, and with his whistling scythe does cut each stroke between the earth and root. The edged steel by careless chance did into his own ankle glance. Oh no! And there among the grass fell down by his own scythe the mower moan. Alas, said he, these hurts are slight to those that die by love's despite. With shepherd's purse and clown's all heal, the blood I stanch and wound I seal. Only for him no cure is found, whom Juliana's eyes do wound. 'Tis death alone that this must do, for death thou art a mower too. Damon the Mower by Andrew Marvell. So, no, it wasn't Athena. That was delightfully free of mythological allusion and was so plain and beautiful. That was so beautiful. I liked when he looked at himself in the scythe. Oh man, I disagree. I'm continually amazed by Andrew Marvell. I thought a lot happened in a relatively short poem. God, you should hear some of the windbag garbage I read normally. Look at that. This was beautiful. Nor am I so deformed to sight, if in my scythe I looked right. He's looking into his blade, in which I see my picture done, as in a crescent moon the sun. That was delightful. This is Adorno's essay as form. This is an incredible essay if you've never encountered it. I think, I could be wrong. It is still the case that punctuation frequently, I say, definitely. Oh God, so wrong, so wrong. That is a pretty amazing document in itself. Now look at where's the punctuation in the Twitch chat. Punctuation has been extirpated from the earth. Himself. Who would say such a thing? I don't want to look it up. Pretty mundane. But whether that she children had or none, I read it not. Therefore I let it gone. Wow, I actually know that. This is Chaucer writing about crusade. Certainly Confucius would say that. But yeah, but okay, I have to look it up. Look at yeah, let's see how filiality made it into the West prior to Confucius, who wasn't even translated prior to the late 19th century. Um, um, I should actually. Here's the quote. Oh my god. You fucking piece of shit. Why the fuck does this fucking thing do that? Okay. Pardon the outburst there. So this was from what? Greek wit and philosophy. Okay. So let's see. Diogenes, Antisthenes. Okay, so that was actually Demetrius talking. Demetrius told that the Athenians had pulled down his statues, answered, but not my virtues which they set them up for. That's a very famous line. I read that before. Isn't that great? The Athenians tore down his statues, but then his response was, but not my virtues which they set them up for. Yeah, that is, you're right, that is very Confucius. Do you know or do you recall the line in the Analects that Confucius says is the most important principle? Ooh, that's Boethius. So, uh, yes, filiality is central, but it is explicit in the Analects that uh, not having twisty thoughts is the most important. That of course is the Ezra Pound translation, which I cannot recommend highly enough. But let me show you here. Yeah, there you go. Now look, this is from Ezra Pound's preface to his translation, and this is, I'll find it in the Analects. Holy God, that is so annoying. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Why does this not? Oh my God. I cannot stand that. I cannot believe it does that. Okay. Yeah. There. In book 2:2. Oh, okay. I guess I think I may have overstated. The Shi Ching can be gathered into one sentence. Have no twisty thoughts. This translation is incredible. Look at this beauty. Governing by the light of one's conscience is like the pole star, which dwells in its place, and the other stars fulfill their functions respectfully. Well, true. True. Uh, but filiality won't tell that to you either. Here is an elaboration on intelligence as defined. Looking straight into one's heart and acting on it. In fact, so there you could say that sincerity is the root. And that's why I would say that having no twisty thoughts is an exhortation to sincerity. But let me see if the Great Learning is in this this edition. It may not be, because in the Great Learning, the method is more clearly defined. Yeah, it isn't in here. Let me see if I have that. Was that the translation from let's compare before it disappears. Notice, so pound translates virtue as the light of one's conscience. Yeah, I like the Slingerland translation too. Let me see if I can find. I might not have. Yeah, I don't think I have that. That's a shame. I don't think I'm gonna be able to find it offhand, but well, okay, let's see. Well, we can use this one. So, how do you know what's a twisty thought? Illustrate the illustrious virtue. Ah, see, in order to know the twisty thought, you have to know the point of rest. And then you know what to pursue. Once you know what you're pursuing, then you can become determined to pursue that, and you will obtain calm. In that calm, you can carefully deliberate, and then you will obtain what you desire. Here's the see, this is actually where I yes. Well, 16 is a subtle point. I'm curious how Slingerland would translate 16. 16 is the obverse of knowing the point of rest. And so this very famous ladder of hierarchy here. So you want to illustrate your virtue, order your own state. You want to order your own state, regulate your family. You want to regulate your family, cultivate yourself. You want to cultivate yourself, rectify your heart. Huh. That's interesting. That one is distinct, where Ezra Pound makes one virtue of Ezra Pound's translation is how laconic it is. It's he aspired to make it as brief as the original. Although this is more externalized, whereas Slingerland's is more internal. Cultivate our person, rectify our heart. Rectify our heart, seek sincerity. Wishing to be sincere, we learn everything. Along the lines of 2:15. Yeah. When we investigate, knowledge becomes complete. With complete knowledge, our thoughts become sincere. Thoughts becoming sincere, we rectify our hearts. Then we've cultivated our person. Then our families are regulated. Then the state is governed. And then the whole kingdom is tranquil. Note Ezra Pound and interpreted Confucius in light of world politics. He was translating this after he was tried for treason by the Allied government after they invaded Italy. I have spent many years considering what Buddhist omniscience means, and it doesn't mean the same thing as Christian God omniscience. Since God, in the Christian sense, created the entire world and is omnipotent to intervene, Buddhist omniscience is much more practical. Since there is no creator, then all that omniscience needs to be is knowing what is necessary to help others. So I would say that complete knowledge is only what is necessary to help others in the highest sense, in what is possible then. So there may not even be, I would venture that there isn't a complete knowledge out there to be found beyond and above whatever knowledge and triumph is accomplished. In that respect, I do agree that complete knowledge, along the lines of Confucius, where you're living and dying in a world that has a complete coherence, has seemingly been quite undermined, in that the world and the basis for our world is being undermined in ways that it's hard to see, and it's not clear that there is even a coordinated plan guiding the ill or the good. But I'm not so sure that was so different than long ago, although they did have more reliance on harmony with heaven. Have you ever looked at the Book of Songs? The Shi Ching? My namesake? Again, I cannot recommend highly enough Ezra Pound's translation. Chick, chick, hopper grass. Nothing but grasshoppers hopping past. Tell me how a lady can be gay if she sees no gentleman. But when I've seen a man at rest, standing still, met at his post, my heart is no more tempest tossed. I climb South Hill to pick the turtle fern, seeing no man such climbs heart burn. But to see a good man at rest, standing still, met at his post, I no more think this trouble lost. To climb South Hill, picking the jagged fern, and see no man who shall not pine and yearn. But to see good man at rest, standing still there at his post, is the heart's design's utmost. No. Actually, even according to the Analects, you don't go on to the songs. Let's see if I can find that citation. Ah, here you go. 1613. Chan Kang asked Po Yu if he had heard anything different. He replied, "No." He was standing alone one day as I was passing the hall in a hurry, or going by the courtyard. He said, "Studied the odes?" Confucius asked, "Studied the odes?" I replied, "No." Not study the odes, won't be able to use words. There you go. That's Confucius on the odes. I went out and studied the odes. Another day, he was standing alone. I went by the court in a hurry. Studying the rites? No. If you don't study the rites, you won't be able to stand up. I went out and studied the rites. Those are two things I've heard from him. Chan Kang retired, saying delightedly, asked one question and got to three things. I heard of the odes. I heard of the Book of Rites. I heard that a proper man don't nag his son. Now the Book of Rites, now that is harder to justify as studying. Because that is quite obscure. Like that has all these rituals of the Chinese court. This is the Book of Rites. Here's the summary from the first chapter of the Book of Rites. Always and in everything let there be reverence. With the deportment grave, as when one is thinking deeply, and with speech composed and definite. This will make people tranquil. Wow, this is actually more relevant than I said. Pride should not be allowed to grow. The desires should not be indulged. The will should not be gratified to the full. Pleasure should not be carried to excess. Men of talents and virtue can be familiar with others and yet respect them, can stand in awe of others and yet love them. They love others and yet acknowledge the evil that is in them. They accumulate wealth and yet are able to part with it. They rest in what gives them satisfaction and yet can seek satisfaction elsewhere. When you find wealth within your reach, do not try to get it by improper means. When you meet with calamity, do not try to escape it by improper means. Ooh, this is good. Here, watch. I'm gonna throw in the Book of Rites into the machine, and we can do a freestyle study together. I have never studied the Book of Rites. We will be able to stand today. We said it at the same time. Hey, if you want to go on Skype and do this live, I'm all down for it. Either that, or if you want to try like talking in Discord, I'd be up for that too. We could get the dual stream working. Okay. I'll put in the introduction too. Why not? Okay. The Li Ching. Are you talking about me or yourself? Oh. Oh. This is more comfortable for me than a chair. Confucius will be smiling from his obelisk. Okay, here we go. Okay, let me see if I can get a clean one. The amount of the blank should have regard to the character of the year as good or bad. This is the very practical Confucius there. Huh. I don't know. Offerings? Oh, you got it. You got it. You're right. It was offerings. Wow. I have much to learn from you. Sons' wives should serve their parents-in-law as they blank their own. It's got to be served. Yep. What name do men give to this blank? Expedition. This method is not... When the guests had blanked the door, gotta be shut, entered. It was not lawful for the princes to sacrifice to the king to whom they blank their ancestry, nor for the great officers to do so to the rulers from whom they sprang. Ode? Traced. This method is not... I'll just keep looking until we find something interesting, since this method is not working very well for this. But if he or his descendants have been away from the state for 3 generations, and if his dignity and emoluments be still reckoned to him or his family at the court, and his outgoings and incomings are announced to the state, and if his brothers or cousins and other members of his house be still there, he should continue to send back word about himself to the it's got to be like lineage representative. Here we go. A life ordered in harmony with it would realize the highest Chinese ideal, and surely a very high ideal, of human... So this must be from Leggie's preface. I'll say... This is what we'll get out of standing up. Oh, now I really need my Gu Zhen music. Character. That's how the other one spoke of it. It was with reference to Nan Kung that he said that we should work to become poor blank when we have lost office. I work for state government, which I didn't plan on from my studies in Confucius, but I do consider Confucius's recommendations about serving the state and serving the people, and then if you're unable to do so, then retiring. So I'm actually quite happy that I feel able to at least strive with dignity to serve people in this state. Although my prince is hard to acquiesce to, there is a proper way to do so, I acknowledge. I'm gonna look this one up. Oh! I actually just looked it up and saw what the answer was, and I'm wrong. You want to guess? Wow, that is a very unexpected recommendation there, which would not be popular at all anywhere in the world, as far as I know. A misanthropist? Misanthropists are people who don't like people. But no, it was quickly. We should become poor quickly when we have lost office. Look at this. Oops. Yeah, so this is where it came from. To become poor quickly. And so this is the part from the Book of Rites. Yu Zi asked Zhang Zi if he had ever questioned the master about an officer's losing his place. I heard from him, was the reply, that the officer in such a case should wish to become poor quickly, as we should wish to decay quickly when we have died. Yu Zi said, "These are not the words of a superior man." "I heard them from the master," returned Zhang Zi. Yu Zi repeated that they were not the words of a superior man, and the other affirmed that both he and Zhe Yu had heard them. "Yes, yes," said Yu Zi, "but the master must have spoken them with a special reference." Zhang Zi reported Yu Zi's words to Zi Yu, who said, "How very like his words are to those of the master. Formerly, when the master was staying in Sung, he saw that Huan, the minister of war, had been for 3 years having a stone coffin made for himself without its being finished." I'll look up 218 in a second. So he's making working for Minister of War is having a coffin made for 3 years, and said, "What extravagance! It would be better that when dead he should quickly decay away." It was with reference to Huan, the Minister of War, that he said, "We should wish to decay away quickly when we die." When Nan Kong, King Shu, returned to the state, he made it a point to carry his treasures with him in his carriage when he went to court, on which the master said, "Such an amount of property, it would have been better for him when he lost his office to make haste to become poor." It was with reference to Nan Kong King Shu, the guy carrying around his treasure, that he said that we should work to become poor quickly when we have lost office. Yeah, you're so right. I use this principle consciously. I consciously have this principle from Confucius while I work. Tzu Chang was studying to get a paid job. He said, "Listen a lot and hide your suspicions. See that you really mean what you say about the rest, and you won't get into any scrapes. Many scrapes. Look a lot, avoid the dangerous, and be careful what you do with the rest. You will have few remorses. Salary is found in a middle space, where there are few words blamed and few acts that lead to remorse." It took me many years to to figure this out. Previously, I had a lot of too many words blamed. Well, that was a very interesting little bit of the Book of Rites. Great officers had 3 fanes. One on the left, one on the right, and that of his great blank in all 3. What is a fane? A temple? A temple. When occupied with the duties of blank, one should not speak of music. That's gotta be office. But I'll throw it up to our intuition here. Wow, the Book of Rites is great. I can't believe I've never read this before. I like your answer better. Oh. Wow, that's funny. That's funny. I Actually, it's not funny. See, that is a good indication of how we have no notion of duties related to mourning. It's all informal. I'm almost afraid to look that one up. Better do it then. Right, but who practices that? You're supposed to, if I recall correctly, we can look at this. If I recall correctly, you're supposed to like wear black for 3 years. When occupied with the duties of mourning. Oh. Hold on. When occupied with the duties of mourning, and before the internment, the burying, of a parent, a son should study the ceremonies of mourning. And after the internment, the burial, those of sacrifice. When the mourning is over, let him resume his usual ways and study the pieces of music. When occupied with the duties of mourning, one should not speak of music. When sacrificing, one should not speak of what is inauspicious. In the ruler's court, parties should not speak of wives and daughters. This is great. These are very eclectic. Look at the next one. It's all about staffs and sheep. This must be the greater dressing. What is that? Okay, I can't resist. Oh, that was a footnote. This is a footnote number 2 here, from right here. After the dressing. When the mother of Qi Qiangzi died, Kung Shuzo was still young. After the dressing, Pan asked leave to let the coffin down into the grave by a mechanical contrivance. They were about to accede when Kung Qianqia said no. According to the early practice in Lu, the ducal house used for this purpose the arrangement looking like large stone pillars, and the 3 families that like large wooden columns. Pan, you would, in the case of another man's mother, make trial of your ingenuity. Could you not, in the case of your own mother, do so? Would that distress you? Bah! They did not allow him to carry out his plan. Oh wow, the dressing was the arrangement of the clothing on the dead. The great, so after dressing the mother of King Qianqi. He has blank, and his father is not to be seen. He feels that he has lost him. Hey! Welcome. We are studying the Book of Rites. These are nice to look up because they're so short, the little anecdotes. So there's our line. Condolences should be presented to the son when he returns from the grave and is wailing, at which time his grief is at its height. He has returned, and his father is not to be seen. He feels that he has lost him. His grief is then the most intense. Under the yin, they presented condolences immediately at the grave. Under the cow, when the son had returned and was wailing. Confucius said, "Yin was too blunt. I will follow cow." Zhang Zi asked, under what circumstances is it that at sacrifice they do not carry out the practice of all blank to one another? Zhangzi asked, under what circumstances is it that at sacrifice they do not carry out the practice of all drinking to one another? Confucius said, I have heard that at the close of the 1 year's mourning, the principle concerned in it sacrifices in his inner garment of soft silk, and there is not that drinking all around. The cup is set down beside the guests, but they do not take it up. This is the rule. Formerly, Duke Cao of Lu, while in that silken garment, took the cup and sent it all around, but it was against the rule. And Duke Hao, at the end of the 2nd year's mourning, put down the cup presented to him, and did not send it all round. But this also was against the rule. It is held, and I think blank, that these princelets were the chiefs of wild tribes. That was a footnote from Leggy. Should have sniffed that out and gone on to the next one. So that was a footnote from this. When the Son of Heaven stands with his back to the screen with axe head figures on it, and the princes present themselves before him with their faces to the north, this is called kin, the autumnal audience. When he stands at the usual point of reception between the door and the screen, and the dukes have their faces toward the east, and the feudal princes towards the west, this is called cow. the spring audience. When feudal princes see one another at a place and time not agreed on beforehand, the interview is called a meeting. When they do so in some open place agreed on beforehand, it is called an assembly. Alright, cool. Yeah, I think I'll go grab me some coffee and come back. I'm really glad we got started in this, though. This is really magnificent.